Brothers TV.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laura Beltonba. On today's episode, we're taking some interesting approaches to looking at health. I'm going to be joined by Jody Williams, who is a health and wellness coach, and I'm also going to be joined by Gareth Kippenhuck, who is the CEO and co-founder of Nutriforge. So sit back, relax, and we'll get right to it.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm now here with Gareth Kippenhuck of Nutriforge. Gareth, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Laura Bell. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here because I did the LinkedIn creep before I invited you because I wanted to get an overall sense of your business and who you are. But before we get into that, how did you end up with Nutriforge?
Well, Nutriforge is a very interesting story. My career is quite diverse. I'm doing a PhD in community health.
Wow.
And I have 2 degrees in kinesiology. So one is a bachelor's and another one's in a master's degree. And my primary profession is doing clinical exercise physiology work, generally for people with illnesses, but I do a lot of work with general health populations. Over the past 4 years, I had a virtual health contract with Nunatukavut Community Council, which is the organization that I'm affiliate with. And through that time, I did a whole lot of nutritional analysis and tracking and helping people out with their diets. What you realize, though, Laura Bell,
No
is that throughout that time, you'll see that most people start a nutrition diet and they'll completely fail within the first 2 weeks. Almost always, 70% fail within the first 2 weeks. Probably over the course of a month, 85%. In that period of time, I understood that there's a major problem. A lot of people are using other apps, which are great. However, there's a disconnect between the client and the health professional. With Nutriforge, as a stipulation of my PhD, I have MyTax funding, and so I was working with some people with the Mons Center for Entrepreneurship. And in that time, I found out that there's probably a way that we can solve this issue. We understood that artificial intelligence is rapidly growing, and therefore we could probably combine the two to marry a better solution. And that's really what we were doing, was solving my own solution. So my mentor, Jan Mertlich, he connected me with my business partner, Jagger Cooper, who is a Bachelor of Science student in computer science. And together we started to form a solution. Then we brought in my longtime mentor, Andy Pratt, who I work with as well. Okay. And so he took on the marketing side of things. And that's what Nutriforge does. It's essentially a nutrition app that uses artificial intelligence that bridges the gap between the client and the health professional. So if you have to track your diet in 10 seconds, you can talk to Nutriforge and it's all done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So when you were saying that people usually fail within the first 2 weeks, I was like, I wanted to put my hand up and be like, hi, I'm Laura Bell. I have failed on my dieting plan within the first 2 weeks.
Exactly.
So that's super cool. So a way to like talk it out and then you can connect with your health professional and they can keep in contact with you as you're going through it.
Absolutely. So Laura Bell, if you were my client,
yeah,
and you said to me, hey, I'd like to do a nutrition tracking program. With Nutriforge, you can use it by yourself. You don't need a health and fitness professional. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to connect with you and I'd like to be your client. So what I would do is say, hey, now you have to track your nutrition. So you go in, you say, hey, Nutriforge, I had yada, yada, yada for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, supper, whatever it is. And then you'll see it loading, 10 seconds, pops it out. And then I can see it on my end, completely analyzed, everything's done. All the information's there.
Okay.
And it essentially just simplifies the process, and it makes it very in a bite-sized piece for the health and fitness practitioner too, because before I'd spend hours doing that. You know, somebody would give me their logs, I would have to manually analyze it, cross-reference it, do whatever. Even if it was through another app, I'd have to take it and look it over. But now it's all done.
So I'm sitting here thinking how cool that is, because every time I ever had to like track macros and all that, I would sit there and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. And one, that would be the first barrier. I already had to find the healthy food and eat it. That's a struggle on its own some days. But then having to track it, and I'll be like, nope, we're not going to do this. And then on the coaster we go off. Kind of thing. Okay.
So a cool thing with NutriForge as well is that you can input a lot of your presets. So for example, if you have any sort of health condition, you can put that in there. If you have dietary restrictions, you can put that in there. And you'll set up your whole profile, you set up your goals and needs. And what it'll do, it'll use the artificial intelligence to create a profile for you. And then that'll dictate whatever comes out of, say, when it replies to you. Like it'll give you information. Say, for example, I have Crohn's disease. So I'll say, hey, NutriForge, I had bacon for breakfast, which I just had over at the Innovation Health Summit. It'll probably tell me, okay, you're within your macros target, but you probably want to cut back on the fats because it's not that good for your Crohn's disease. So it'll give you some information like that.
You understand that now my brain's going being like all the things, like when you're looking for that health advice, when you can't always access a dietitian or a nutritionist that easily, to know that there's something in your pocket that can be like, hey, you do what's best for you, just letting you know this probably is going to cause a problem. It
is like having a coach in your hand, but you can also connect with the coach. One thing we heard through our consultation process is that dietitians are worried that AI is going to take over their profession, but that's not what we want to do. We want to integrate and marry health and fitness professionals to their clients so that they have no disconnect, because before it's just a process that you may not hear from somebody once you give them that information, but now it's rapid response. You can see it, you can do whatever you need. But in the absence of a health fitness professional, NutriForge can definitely do some of that work. A big thing that we're trying to do with NutriForge is make it more of a health tech device eventually. And that's kind of where we're looking at in the new year. And what that will look like is that we can really tailor how NutriForge understands a health condition and nutrition. So it'll have a machine learning process, and it'll start to understand the way that your health looks and how your nutrition influences that. And for example, with Crohn's disease, it can start to understand my food trends, and if there's certain things that are causing me a flare-up, like because I can put that information in there if I want, and then really build that profile.
This is so exciting and like so innovative, because usually when people think like health and tracking, they're thinking like the old school MyFitness macros, all of that, but to know that there's something that still has that human contact, because your health professional can still look in on that, but still empowers you to take a little bit more control over your own health and how you register information is so cool. Like there are no other words, but this is so cool. But I'm going to dive back a little bit, because you talked about like how you got into this. So as you've been working through all this, what for you have been the moments you've been like, this is wicked awesome?
Yeah, so my mentor, Andy Pratt, he had an artificial intelligence seminar just between us and the trainers at the gym. We sat down, and, I really contradicted him. I said, you know what, Andy, I don't think this is really good. Because a lot of what AI is telling people, they can run with it, but it's not their idea, and it can be disingenuous through some of that. So he was talking about, doing your marketing and branding with that. So I let it sit on the shelf for a little bit. But when I started working on this, we were looking at using, the big thing with a startup is you use minimum viable products for everything. Absolutely. An MVP. And so we were trying to create an MVP. I was using Excel spreadsheets. I was trying to figure out ways to do this. Like maybe you could do it the programming way, but it'd take forever. And one day I was just kind of sat back and I was like, I wonder, could I do this with OpenAI, ChatGPT? Yeah. So I took some information, I just copy and pasted it, and it popped it out, and I was like, hey, that's pretty good. Okay. It's like all the information was correct. It's better than I can do myself. Yeah. So if we take this and put it into a manageable bite-sized chunk for the everyday user, then we could simplify that process so that ideally we increase adherence. Oh, wow.
I was just sitting here just think like from where you started to how you were able to get to there, that's a wonderful journey of kind of accepting how we mix technology with health. So let's say we're sitting back now. 5 years down the road, what are you hoping that NutriForge is for people?
Well, I think Nutriforge is multifaceted. There will always be the everyday user aspect to it, and it'll be less scientific, less professional based. You know, you could use it ideally just on a regular level, you know, just tracking meals and stuff and have some level of inference. But we have big hopes and dreams for Nutriforge that it will be a highly personalized nutrition device where it's integrated between the healthcare system and the client. Okay. With the machine learning process, and also we think we can figure out a way to incorporate genetic data into this so that we can understand disease outcomes, surgery outcomes based on if you alter nutrition and various facets like that. We think that we can drastically change somebody's health and also reduce load and burden on the healthcare system, which is one thing right now. We don't have enough resources, Laurabelle, to address the current healthcare needs. Absolutely. And so that's coming from my standpoint from community health, is that we need to make it patient-focused, but also patient-centered so that they can take control of their healthcare in their own hands, and also relieve the healthcare system with this innovative technology.
That's so cool. I'm so excited to kind of call you up in a few years and like, hey Gareth, how are we doing? Where are things going with that? So for all our viewers now who are, their interest has been piqued. They're like, okay, how do I get in contact? How do I get this on my phone? How do I get involved? Yeah. Where do we find you?
So you can go to Nutriforge.ca. You could sign up right now. And right now we're running our free beta version. And with the free beta version, you can use the app freely. We're soon going to be ready for sales, however, and then it's going to be at a low cost. You'll be able to use it then, and you're probably going to have a lifetime value membership if you buy in early. Not to sell you, but that's just what we want to offer our clients, to make it an easy access source to manage your nutrition. Secondly, you can follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, and you can find us on TikTok as well. And all of those social media platforms, we're posting regular content if you want to see what Nutriforge is up to.
Gareth, thank you so much for sharing your journey, how this started, and how you're kind of supporting individuals on their health journey.
I appreciate the time, Laurabelle. It's been a pleasure.
And we'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by Jody Williams, who is a holistic wellness coach. Jody, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad that our paths get to cross in this way, because you and I have known each other in the world for a while.
Yeah.
But you are now not on a new adventure, but on an adventure that better aligns with who you are as an individual. So how did holistic wellness find Jody, or Jody find holistic wellness?
Okay, we'll back it up 30 years.
Okay.
So I'm in my mid-20s, I kind of started having chronic depression and anxiety. Originally diagnosed as bipolar, but that was kind of a misdiagnosis and got re-diagnosed later. Also, I was have a lot of trauma in my background. Now, at the time, I didn't realize, so I was really heavy into drug addiction. Ended up overdosing a couple times. I was suicidal back then. but again, like not realizing now that I'm older and I've done lots of therapy, I realized a lot of that was coming out of my trauma. I just thought I was kind of a bad person. So that really, I've always been interested in the mind, even when I was a child. So even though when I was living the life of an addict, I had a really strong parallel spiritual practice going under the banner of Buddhism, and I had a teacher at the same time. And I worked with him for years, and also a psychiatrist. And I would say those two men saved my life, really. One in that, one helped me with the harm reduction model to get off drugs. But my spiritual teacher ultimately started to mirror back to me my own goodness. And I went from believing I was a horrible, bad person to believing maybe there's some good in there. And that really changed things. Then I've been meditating for 25 years now. And I did a lot of corporate jobs over the years, and that when I was 40, I decided after I left a very big corporate job, because I just wasn't happy. And my daughter at the time, my wife just left, and all of a sudden I was a single dad, and I was like, okay, something has to change. So I took a year off to reflect on, you know, like, I guess I did a little inventory of my own skill sets. But I really felt pulled to make an impact. I felt at this point, up to that point, my jobs were, you know, more about living, making money. But at 40, I took a vow, actually, that my North Star would be making an impact, and that I would, you know, never basically take a job again based solely on money. And that year I also did my yoga teacher training.
Okay.
And then, yeah, from there, I, now the last 5 or 6 years, I've been teaching quite a bit, do lots of retreats, and it's kind of my main thing right now, for sure.
So when this started from a place of healing yourself, this is how you came into it. So I know there might be a bunch of people who are watching and listening kind of feeling like, hey, Jody, your story seems a little similar to where I am and how I'm sitting, and I don't know my first place to start. I don't know how to even begin to think about what my North Star is going to be for my direction. And so I'm going to ask you, because you do some work with formerly Her Majesty, now I guess His Majesty's Penitentiaries, guiding people who might have fallen off the tracks and who might be in the more marginalized and more vulnerable population who are coming to you and saying, hey, Jody, I'm stuck. What advice would you have for people who are like, I'm stuck and I don't even know where to start?
Okay, so depending on the extremity of kind of where they are, right, I might offer different advice, obviously. Some people are more extreme and they need more extreme help, but generally, so yeah, I do Buddhist pastoral care worker at the local prison. So and I teach a lot of people meditation stuff, but obviously working with that population is the most difficult. But it's kind of like what I said. A lot of them will ask me, well, how did you get straightened out? And I said, and I'll say to them, there was a time when I believed I was bad, and by believing that, it actually enabled me to behave badly. And it took me a long time to, again, with the help of someone else, to believe, okay, I'm good. Maybe I'm good. And then there's a big responsibility of being good, right? You have to step into this new, and I think a lot of people, even the average person, I believe, is afraid to step into their light. I really do. I think most people are a little bit like, a little bit easier to be bad. It's a little bit easier to be bad. But honestly, I think what I see in the wellness world that really hurts me, and a lot of the people I coach, they have really low self-worth. And it's, I pretty much relate it to social media, but we live in a world, I believe, where 70% of people are walking around with kind of a, whether it's a low self-worth or a sense of I'm not good enough, like I kind of have everything materialistically, but I still feel like something's kind of lacking. So one of the main things I teach prisoners, I don't use these words in prison, self-compassion. So for me, that was what saved my life. So I did lots of meditation. Meditation's really good at giving you self-awareness. So it's good at like saying, you know, okay, Jody, these are the patterns we see in you, and these are some things we might want to change. So I did that for a long time, for about 20 years. I got really good at noticing what was wrong with me. But what I didn't do, it was during COVID, the beginning of COVID came, and I lost, you know, we all lost our identities, right? Mm-hmm. And for a lot of us, you know, once you take away like our titles, I really then felt like I was under-resourced. So I took a kind of look at myself, and I was like, you know, I'm just being too hard on myself ultimately. So self-compassion is kind of what I teach, is kind of my main thing. Kindness is a huge thing for me, because I believe, again, like just getting outside of your own self. So when we have depression, and when we can get caught up in, I wouldn't say it's like selfishness, but our world can become really small and narrow with a strong focus on what's wrong. So some of the antidotes to that, of course, is helping others, right? So that's, we're not focusing on ourselves. Getting out there, making connections, because again, if you're not talking to someone else, you're kind of talking to yourself. But ultimately, and I see this all the time, it's like we have this thing, we live in a hustle culture. Mm-hmm. Everyone's trying to optimize everything, the morning routine, and like, it's like, wow, it's all under the banner of wellness, but it's making people feel not good enough, less, right? Because your social media feed is just filled with, here's what's wrong with you, and I have the solution.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you can't hate yourself into losing weight, for instance. Mm-hmm. You can't hate yourself into going to the gym. You can try. You can get mad at yourself. It's a technique we use. Mm-hmm. But what happens is there's self-sabotage, right? There's a point when that's not going to work. There's a point when, because anything that requires self-discipline, and we hate that word, right? Discipline has a negative connotation in our culture. But in fact, anything that requires self-discipline is always good for you, right? Yeah. Think about it. Going to the gym, eating right, sleeping well. All these things take some self-discipline. But I like to reframe that. I call it self-care, self-love. These words seem to be a little bit more approachable for people.
I love the way you talk about like self-care and self-love versus self-discipline in that approach. And then when you were talking about how we live in this optimization world of where everything has to be optimal, what we're seeing is that a lot of people are now getting burnout, where we are at our wits' end. It's, if I'm not optimal, I have burned myself at the end of my candle. Yep. So what is your approach to kind of going into that self-care beyond, like you do your meditation and you work with your spiritual practices, but for a lot of people, they're like, I'm burnt out. Yep. I don't even begin to know what that looks like on the other side. Yeah. What do you say for someone who's like, what's my first step in trying to figure that out?
Okay, if you have burnout and it's coming from, it's a really complex issue. So with burnout, so I had burnout. I was diagnosed with burnout in April, on which I decided to leave a career I had because it kind of was an ongoing thing. Mm-hmm. Every year this would happen, right? So with burnout, sometimes the issues are can be systemic, and we don't have a lot of control. So there's two things we need to look at, right? What areas can I control? Mm-hmm. And then what areas are outside of my control? You know, if you're someone who's marginalized, you know, even your access to wellness products is just not there. Like, wellness in our world can be unfortunately, what I see, a privileged thing, right? Mm-hmm. These wellness tools that are free, everything I teach is free, in that, you know, they don't require anything, only for you to cultivate tools. So that's one thing that I'm personally trying to work on, because I'm not busy enough, but I'm looking at starting a nonprofit to democratize some of these mental health things and get them out there to people, again, who don't have access to them. But the first thing I would do is take a serious look at, maybe you might need to leave a job. If you keep getting burnt out and over and over, then maybe that's extreme, certainly. But also, I would say look at your own inventory of your own things that you're doing. And the hardest part about being human, I think, is being honest with ourselves, right?
Jody, it's been awesome getting to chat with you and getting into all of this. I know you and I could spend a whole day getting into wellness, burnout, healing, and just how to get connected into a more holistic way of living. But for those who've listened and who are now interested in figuring out, hey, Jody, I think I need to chat with you. I need to find out more. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jody A. Williams. On Facebook, it would be Ocean Yoga and Mindfulness. And on LinkedIn, you can find me as Jody Williams. Yeah, shoot me a DM. I try to offer, I have a retreat coming up where I'm offering 10 scholarships because to me, again, I'm trying to do everything I'm doing to make it accessible, inclusive. So I give it a lot of scholarships if someone can't afford to do anything I'm teaching. I do one-on-one coaching. Again, I have kind of sliding scales for that. But yeah, you can reach out to me. There's the easiest way. My website is almost done, so I won't announce that one yet. And and that's good. Yeah, just shoot me a DM and we can go from there.
Jody, it's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Can't wait to have you back again soon.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back, everyone.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I always love getting to share what's going on in our province with you. An extra special thank you to my guest, Jody Williams, for being honest and open about what burnout looks like and what taking care of your own mental health can look like for you. I also want to give a very special thank you to Garrett for showing us that AI and health can go together. And for those of you who are wondering how NutriForge can support your nutritional goals, make sure to check them out, and letting you know they also are able to translate Indigenous diets as well. So thank you all for joining me, and I can't wait to see you all again next time.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
We want to hear from you. Provide feedback on this show or find out how you can get involved. Call, email us, or scan the QR code to take our quick survey.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Here are 3 reasons why your social strategies should include Rogers TV. Reason number 1 is we have hyper-local audiences. The community TV channel gives you a chance to engage with people where you live, so you really get to know your neighbors and they get to know you. Reason number 2 is we can help diversify your distribution. With social media, it's really important to be able to have a wider audience, and Rogers TV can actually help complement your online presence by delivering to a different audience. And it's actually really easy to repurpose your existing content or to just create new material specifically tailored for community TV. And finally, reason number 3 is we can help enhance your credibility and your trust. And by aligning your brand with Rogers TV, you can tap into that trust that viewers have. This can boost your reputation, especially among viewers who favor local businesses and value community involvement. 1, 2, 3. It's that easy to build your local audience with Rogers TV.
This fall on Rogers TV, we'll be airing your RNC, Compassion in Action. It's a glimpse inside the world of Newfoundland and Labrador's provincial police